I always thought the worst place to discover betrayal would be some dramatic setting, like catching your husband in bed with someone else, or a hidden camera moment where you gasp and drop a wine glass like a soap opera heroine. Turns out for me, it happened on a perfectly normal Tuesday morning in my kitchen, barefoot, wearing an old sweatshirt with a bleach stain on the sleeve. I was scrolling through my phone, half awake, mentally preparing for another day at the office, when I got a message from my mom. "Sweetheart, can you stop by tonight? We should talk." Harmless, right? Except she sent it to me and apparently also accidentally sent it to my husband. Or at least that's what I thought. Until I noticed the preview of his reply flashing across my screen because my phone was still connected to the shared iCloud messages he swore he disabled months ago. His text to my mother, my actual mother, read, "I miss you already. Last night was, God, I still can't believe it." Followed by a heart. A heart. To my mom. My brain short circuited so hard I genuinely thought the universe had glitched. I stared at the screen for a solid 30 seconds, waiting for something, anything, to make it make sense. Maybe he fat fingered? Maybe it was a draft? Maybe autocorrect had completely lost its mind and replaced mom with mommy blogger, because that would have been less disturbing. But no, the silence in my kitchen suddenly felt like it had teeth. My coffee tasted sour, my pulse climbed into my throat. Because deep down, the part of me I always ignored, the part that had been whispering for months, I knew exactly what I'd just witnessed. He wasn't cheating on me with a coworker or a stranger from some sketchy app. No, my husband, Mr. Marriage is Sacred, was cheating on me with my mother. And right there, in the middle of my kitchen, I didn't scream or cry or collapse. I just set my mug down, wiped the counter with a dish towel, and thought, okay, if this is the game we're playing now, then they have no idea who they're dealing with. Because I don't break. I plot. You'd think the next logical step after discovering your husband is swapping hearts with your mother would be to storm into someone's house with a flamethrower, metaphorically speaking. But no, I didn't even raise my voice. I went to work like it was any other day. Because if there's one thing heartbreak taught me, it's this: don't swing until you know exactly where to land the punch. I sat at my desk, fingers hovering over my keyboard, pretending to work while my mind played back every suspicious moment from the past year like a cursed highlight reel. The weird tension at Thanksgiving. My mom suddenly wearing perfume again. My mom, who normally smells like lavender and questionable life choices. My husband helping her with her kitchen remodel, even though the man can't spell grout, let alone apply it. But suspicion isn't evidence, and evidence was exactly what I needed if I was going to do this the right way. So I started small, logged into our shared phone plan, checked text backups, call logs, deleted message threads mysteriously resurrected because my husband didn't understand how cloud syncing works. And it was all there. Little crumbs, like they'd left a digital trail straight to hell. Midnight calls on nights he claimed he was working late. Lunch breaks that lasted just long enough for a rendezvous, but not long enough for a dental appointment, which is what he told me he had. Calendar invites labeled things like drop off, which made me nauseous once I realized I wasn't the thing being dropped off. Then I checked my mother's social media, not the public Facebook page with inspirational quotes she stole from Pinterest, but the private Instagram only family saw. And there it was, a photo taken from her back deck. A familiar shadow in the corner. A man's silhouette. My husband's silhouette. Not damning on its own. But I zoomed in like a CSI tech having a spiritual awakening, and right there on the porch railing was his thermos. The one I bought him last Christmas. The one engraved with his initials. Cute, subtle, infuriating. I sat back in my chair and felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness, not even betrayal. It was resolve. Cold, clean, razor-sharp resolve. If they wanted to build a secret world together, then I would build a response so elegant, so unforgettable, they'd feel it every time they looked at each other for the rest of their lives. Because they didn't just break my trust. They broke the woman who taught me what trust was supposed to look like. And now they were about to find out that when I'm pushed too far, I don't fall. I rise. With receipts. Here's the thing they never tell you about betrayal. Once you see the truth, you start seeing everything. Little details sharpen, patterns emerge, and suddenly your entire life looks like a puzzle you didn't realize you were meant to solve. That night, I went home and acted painfully normal. I cooked dinner. I asked my husband about his day. I even laughed at one of his stupid stories about a coworker who kept microwaving salmon in the office kitchen. Meanwhile, I was cataloging every micro expression on his lying face. The way he avoided eye contact just slightly too long. The way he checked his phone every time it buzzed like Pavlov's adulterer. He excused himself after dinner to take a call. And I swear, he actually winked at himself in the hallway mirror before stepping outside. I watched in silence from behind the living room curtain, biting back a laugh. I wasn't devastated anymore. I was entertained. He paced the driveway, whispering, smiling, face lit up in that exact way he used to smile at me. But the kicker? He ended the call with, "Good night, love you," and no, she doesn't suspect a thing. Oh, sweetheart, if only you knew. I spent the rest of the evening gathering what I needed. Screenshots, backups, copies of my mother's Instagram story, archives that she didn't know, synced to a shared family folder. A little voice recording from earlier that day where she'd accidentally pocket dialed me while talking to someone. I didn't catch the whole conversation, but I heard enough to recognize his laugh in the background. Cute. The next morning, instead of sitting in my kitchen spiraling, I waltzed into my office like a woman possessed. Grabbed a coffee, took my seat, opened my laptop, and made a plan. Not revenge, not yet. Before you strike, you prepare. Step 1, get mom alone. Step 2, get husband alone. Step 3, get them both to underestimate me. Trust me, that part was effortless. I texted my mom asking if she wanted to go to brunch Saturday. She replied instantly, too instantly, with a cheery, "Absolutely can't wait," sprinkled with emojis she normally uses only after 2 glasses of wine. Meanwhile, my husband sent me a text around noon. "I might be helping your mom with her remodel this Saturday. Hope that's okay?" I nearly cackled in my cubicle. Oh, it was going to be more than okay. It was going to be perfect. Because now I knew exactly where they'd both be, exactly when they'd be alone, exactly when their lives would finally collide. And I'd be standing there with the truth cupped in my hands like a lit match. By Friday, I had gathered so much evidence I could have opened a small museum dedicated entirely to poor life choices. But evidence alone isn't revenge. Evidence is just the match. You still need the oxygen, the timing, the audience. And, oh, did I have a plan? Saturday morning rolled around bright and painfully cheerful. The kind of day the universe usually reserves for people who aren't being betrayed by their mother and husband. I got dressed in a soft blue wrap dress, one that said effortlessly composed woman who absolutely isn't planning emotional arson before lunchtime. My husband left early with the world's worst excuse. "Your mom needs help moving some furniture." "Sure. Furniture, right." I gave him a sweet smile and said, "Tell her I'll see her at brunch." He blinked, confused for half a second, but then smoothed it over with a nod. He didn't ask questions, and that was mistake number. Well, I'd lost count. I waited an hour, giving them time to settle into whatever forbidden domestic fantasy they thought they were living. Then I grabbed my keys, my tote bag, and the neat little packet of printed screenshots tucked inside it. Now, here's where my plan got delicious. My mother's house has a key code lock. And the key code? My birthday. So sentimental. I punched it in, walked inside like I owned the place, and immediately heard voices upstairs. His, hers, talking, laughing. The kind of light, intimate laughter that makes your stomach drop if you aren't ready for it. But I was beyond ready. I didn't stomp, I didn't storm, I didn't scream. I walked up the stairs slowly, deliberately. Each heel click its own battle drum. Halfway up the landing, their conversation fell silent. I turned the corner into the hallway, stopped in the open doorway to my mother's bedroom. Yes, bedroom. And found them sitting there on the edge of her neatly made bed, looking like 2 teenagers caught vaping behind a church. My mom went pale. My husband stood up so fast he nearly tripped. "Oh," I said, my voice honey smooth. "Don't stop on my account." They froze. And that's when I smiled. Slow, sharp, unshakable. "Brunch is canceled," I said. "But don't worry, I brought something better." I lifted the folder of evidence and let it fall open like a magician revealing her final trick. Their faces. Worth, every, shredded. Nerve. You know that moment in movies when someone drops a stack of compromising photos on the table and everyone gasps dramatically? Yeah, this was better. because I got to watch the realization crawl across both their faces like a slow-moving natural disaster. My mom's mouth opened and closed twice, like she was buffering. My husband's ears turned the exact shade of guilt-flushed crimson you only see on toddlers caught drawing on walls. Perfect. I stepped into the room, closed the door behind me, not slamming it, just a soft click that made both of them jump, and set the folder on the dresser. My mother was the first to speak. Honey, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Mom, if you're going to lie, at least put some effort into it. You've been rehearsing for months. My husband stammered behind her, voice shaky. Babe, please listen. I held up a hand and he stopped mid-syllable. Power is a gorgeous, intoxicating thing when you've been denied it for too long. I don't need explanations, I said. I didn't come here for a confession. I came for clarity. Then I turned to my mother, letting my words land like precision strikes. When did you decide sleeping with your daughter's husband was a hobby? Before or after your tarot phase? Her face crumpled. Excellent. My husband tried again, stepping forward. It just happened. We didn't mean for things to go this far? Right, I said. Affairs are notorious for just happening, like spontaneous combustion, or crop circles. He opened his mouth. I cut him off. You know the part that really impresses me? The creativity. I mean, lying about the remodel, the secret lunches, Mom, the Instagram story with his thermos in the background. Bold choices, she whispered. I thought you wouldn't notice. And that was the moment something inside me snapped into perfect alignment. You're right, I said softly. You both thought I wouldn't notice, because you've both mistaken my composure for ignorance for years? I took a slow breath, let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then I smiled. But here's the good news. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to end the game. They exchanged a panicked glance. I walked over to the folder, pulled out a single sheet, and laid it on the bed next to them. A printed reservation confirmation. For Monday, I said. Dinner, the three of us. My husband blinked. Why? So you can tell my mother's boyfriend the truth together? I replied. Since he deserves to hear it from the people who ruined his life, not the woman who has already survived you both. My mother gasped. My husband cursed under his breath. And me? I walked toward the doorway, pausing just long enough to look back at them with the level gaze of a woman who no longer has anything left to lose. Be ready, I said, because I'm not done. I walked out of my mother's house feeling unsettlingly calm, like someone who'd finally put down a weight they'd been carrying for years. Behind me, I knew they were scrambling, whispering, panicking. Good. Let them. I sat in my car, closed the door, and just breathed. Not because I was overwhelmed, because I was focused. The shock was gone. The heartbreak filed away. All that was left was strategy. I opened the reservation email on my phone. Monday, 7:45 p.m. A romantic Italian restaurant. Tiny tables, low lighting. The kind of place where secrets echo. Perfect for the truth that they were too cowardly to say out loud. But this wasn't just about them. This was about Daniel, my mom's boyfriend. A genuinely good man who brought flowers for no reason and treated her like she was worth something. He deserved honesty. Real honesty. Not whatever fantasy she'd been feeding him. So I texted him. Can we talk Monday over dinner? It's important. He replied almost instantly. Of course, are you okay? The kind of response that makes you realize how low the bar has been. I didn't explain. I just told him I'd see him there. Then I texted the traders. To Mom. Be at the restaurant Monday? Don't make this worse. To husband. Monday, 7:45. Show up? No arguments. Funny how quickly people cooperate once the truth is staring them down. With the logistics locked in, I spent the rest of the day doing the most unbothered things possible. Got a manicure. Bought myself a $5 latte with a shot of smug satisfaction. Wandered through Target like a woman who had absolutely nothing left to fear. By the time I got home, I felt steady. My husband got back later, trying hard to act normal. He hovered around me like a nervous intern, asking if I wanted takeout. I simply said no. No anger, no questions, just silence. And somehow that scared him more than anything else. That night, I saw his shadow pause outside our bedroom door. He didn't knock. He knew Monday was coming. And Monday would be the day the truth finally sat down at the table with all of us. Sunday felt like the quiet before a storm, the kind where the sky looks normal, but the air tastes like electricity. I went through my day like a woman hosting a very calm apocalypse. My husband tried hovering again, asking if I wanted to talk, which was rich coming from a man who had spent months perfecting silent betrayal. I gave him a polite maybe later, which is married woman code for never again in this lifetime. Meanwhile, my mother texted me 3 separate times. Sweetheart, can we please discuss this? You don't understand the situation? Please don't involve Daniel. Oh, but involving Daniel was the entire point. She had taken something from me that could never be replaced. The least I could do was return the honesty she never gave him. The day moved slowly, too slowly. I cleaned the kitchen. I folded laundry I didn't care about. I meal prepped a salad I absolutely wasn't going to eat. When you're preparing emotional warfare, the mundane feels almost comical. Around sunset, I took a long shower and stood there letting the water run while I talked to myself in the mirror. Something like a pep talk, something like a battle speech. I wasn't scared. I wasn't second guessing. I was ready. Later, I stepped into the bedroom and found my husband sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, staring at the floor like he expected it to offer moral support. You're being cold, he said quietly. I shrugged. You're being observant. Growth. He flinched. Good. You don't have to do this tomorrow, he said. We can fix this privately. I looked at him for a long moment, almost admiring the audacity. Privately. You slept with my mother. Privacy is done. He went silent, jaw tight. I just don't want things to escalate, he murmured. Oh, trust me, I said. Tomorrow won't escalate anything. It'll just illuminate what you two tried to keep in the dark. He didn't follow me when I left the room. I went to bed early, not because I was tired, but because I wanted to end the day on my terms. I wrapped myself in blankets, breathed deeply, and reminded myself of a truth that carried me through the night. Tomorrow, I wasn't walking into a confrontation. I was walking into closure. And closures, when crafted properly, are more powerful than revenge ever could be. Monday arrived with the kind of clarity usually reserved for new haircuts and fresh starts. I woke up before my alarm, stretched, and felt steady. Not happy, not bitter, just aligned, like the universe finally clicked into place. My husband tiptoed around the kitchen like the floor might explode under him. He made coffee for both of us, which he hadn't done in months, and set my mug on the counter like it was an apology offering. Big day today, he said. I took the mug, sipped, and nodded. For you? Absolutely. He swallowed hard. I didn't elaborate, let him marinate. I left the house early, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to enjoy the day that would end everything quietly, beautifully, and irrevocably. I went to work, answered a few emails, and stared out the window at a sky so bright it felt almost sarcastic. At lunch, Daniel texted, "Still meeting tonight?" I typed back, "Yes, thank you for being there." And I meant it. He wasn't just a pawn in this, he was the only person in this disaster who had done nothing wrong, except fall in love with a woman who couldn't stay loyal to save her life. The afternoon dragged. My mother didn't text, probably out of panic or shame or whatever emotion adulterous moms experience the day they're scheduled for a reckoning. My husband didn't text either, but I saw his location ping on our shared Find My app. He'd already driven by the restaurant. Scoping it out, nervous, good. When I got home, I dressed deliberately, black heels, a fitted blazer, hair smooth and sharp. I wanted to look exactly how I felt. Collected, unshakable, done. My husband came downstairs wearing the same shirt he'd worn for our anniversary dinner 2 years ago. The irony nearly made me choke. You ready? He asked. I gave him a long, calm look. You have no idea. The drive was silent except for his shallow breathing. When we pulled into the restaurant parking lot, I saw Daniel's car already there. He was early. Of course he was. Good people always show up on time for heartbreak. My mother's car pulled in seconds later. She stepped out wearing too much perfume and a face full of guilt. Perfect. I walked ahead of both of them, heels clicking like a countdown timer. The hostess smiled. Reservation for 4? I nodded. She led us to a round table, small, intimate, forcing everyone close. Exactly what I wanted. Daniel stood as we approached. He smiled at me first, soft, concerned. Then he saw my mother behind me, and his smile broke. I pulled out my chair, sat down, folded the napkin in my lap, and said calmly, "Let's begin." The moment the four of us sat down, the whole restaurant seemed to lean in. Daniel looked confused. My mother looked nauseous. My husband looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I, meanwhile, felt like I'd finally exhaled after months of holding my breath. "Thanks for coming," I said, folding my napkin calmly. "We have some things to clear up." Daniel frowned. "What's going on?" My mother jumped in too quickly. "Sweetheart, it's not—" "Stop," I said. "Let's not warm up with lies." My husband tried to salvage it. "Maybe we could talk somewhere private." I smiled at him. "No. Privacy is for people who respect boundaries." Silence, heavy and awkward and absolutely perfect. I reached into my purse, pulled out one screenshot, and slid it to the center of the table. His message to her. The heart emoji glowing like a confession. Daniel leaned forward. As his eyes moved across the text, his face quietly broke. My mother whispered, "Daniel, please." "You don't get to please me," he said, voice shaking but controlled. "How long?" She hesitated. "A few months." 10, I corrected, give or take. My husband glared. "Are you trying to humiliate us?" "Oh, sweetie," I said softly. "I don't have to try." A waitress appeared. The timing was tragic. "Can I get you drinks?" "Yes," I said. "Red wine." Daniel. "Same." My mother. "Water?" My husband. "Whiskey?" The waitress backed away like she'd stumbled into a documentary about bad decisions. When she disappeared, I leaned in. "Daniel deserved honesty. You two couldn't give it to him, so I did." He nodded slowly, eyes glossy but jaw set. He looked at my mother like he was seeing her for the first time. "I trusted you," he said quietly. She reached for him. He pulled back. My husband exhaled sharply. "So what now? You got what you wanted." I turned to him, calm as ice. "Oh no, this dinner isn't what I want," I said. "This is just me opening the door." They froze. "Tomorrow," I continued, "the consequences begin." And finally, they realized this wasn't closure. This was the warning shot. Dinner didn't end with screaming. It ended with the kind of silence that hangs heavy, like everyone suddenly realized they'd stepped off a cliff. Daniel stood first. He looked at my mother, not angry, just deeply disappointed. "I hope you understand what you've lost," he said quietly. Then he gave me a small nod, the kind that says, "Thank you for telling me the truth," and walked out. My mother tried to follow, but her legs didn't move. My husband just sat there, rigid and pale. "Are you satisfied now?" he asked. "No," I said, waving for the check. This wasn't satisfaction. This was honesty. I paid without waiting for either of them and left. They trailed behind me in the parking lot like shadows I was finally ready to step out of. At home, my husband tried to speak again, but I held up a hand. "You're not sleeping in our room." He blinked. "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "The couch." "Or somewhere less hypocritical." I shut the bedroom door before he could answer. It was the first real sleep I'd had in months. Morning came sharp and clear. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and felt something inside me click into place. That dinner wasn't the end. It was the catalyst. I drafted a short email. Subject, divorce, filing appointment request. I attached every piece of evidence. Clean, organized, impossible to refute. Then I hit send. The first domino fell. While I packed an overnight bag, my husband appeared in the doorway, eyes red. "Are you actually leaving?" I zipped the bag. "You slept with my mother. Yes, I'm leaving." "It was a mistake." "No," I said, brushing past him. "A mistake is burning toast. Betrayal is a choice." He didn't follow me. He just stood there, finally understanding the gravity he'd created. And as I walked out the door, I felt lighter. Domino 1 was down. Plenty more stood waiting. I didn't go far, just to a small boutique hotel downtown, the kind with soft lighting, real plants, and pillows that don't judge you. The front desk clerk gave me a warm smile and said, "Rough day?" I almost laughed. "You have no idea." Once inside my room, I set my bag down and just stood there for a moment, letting the quiet wash over me. No husband clearing his throat in the hallway. No mother calling with updates that were really cover stories. Just space. My own space. I kicked off my shoes, sat on the edge of the bed, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief that didn't arrive in disguise. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Please come home, we need to talk." I stared at it, then put my phone face down. Some bridges don't burn. They crumble brick by brick until there's nothing left to walk on. An hour later, another message. This time from my husband. "We shouldn't make big decisions in anger." I actually snorted. If anything, I'd never been calmer. But the real shock came next. A call from my boss. He rarely called me directly, so my stomach did a tiny flip. "Hey," he said cautiously. "Everything okay?" "Define okay," I replied. He hesitated. "Your husband called in sick today. Sounded off." I leaned back on the pillows. "He'll be fine. He is dealing with personal consequences." My boss hummed, the kind that says I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. "Well, just checking. Your work's been outstanding lately." Funny how clarity improves productivity. After hanging up, I spent the afternoon cleaning out my digital life. I changed passwords, disabled shared apps, removed his fingerprint login from my laptop. How romantic that had once seemed. How foolish now. Then I booked a consultation with a divorce lawyer who had 5-star reviews and a reputation for being surgically effective. Exactly my type. By evening, I was wrapped in a hotel robe, eating overpriced room service pasta when a new text came in. Not from him. Not from her. From Daniel. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. You didn't deserve any of this." I stared at the message, unexpectedly touched. It reminded me that even shattered situations can contain good people. I typed back, "Thank you. Truly." And as I set my phone down, I realized something. I wasn't scared of what came next. I wasn't grieving what I'd lost. I was finally stepping into a life that wasn't built on lies. I woke up in the hotel the next morning feeling lighter than I had in months. 10 hours of sleep, uninterrupted, dreamless, peaceful. Amazing what removing 2 toxic people from your immediate orbit can do for the nervous system. I made the tiny in-room coffee, which tasted like hot cardboard, but somehow it felt luxurious. Freedom has a flavor, apparently. When I finally picked up my phone, the chaos awaited me. 5 missed calls from my husband, 3 from my mother, 2 voicemails, equally predictable. My mother's, "We can talk this out, sweetheart." My husband's, "We shouldn't make decisions based on emotion." Cute, almost nostalgic, in a delusional way. I saved both messages strictly as reminders of what I'd escaped. After a long shower, I sat at the small desk and opened my laptop. No revenge spreadsheets, just rebuilding plans. My life needed structure, not theatrics. List 1, new place to live. List 2, financial separation. List 3, therapy, because emotional shrapnel is real. While I was mid-search for apartments, a text came in from an unknown number. "Heard you're going through something? If you need support, I'm here." Emily from HR. Of course HR knew. HR always knows. I thanked her politely and kept working. Then an email popped up, my lawyer's office confirming my consultation for Wednesday. They attached a list of documents I'd need, including proof of infidelity if available. If available, I almost laughed. I had enough evidence to host a TED Talk. Later, I walked downtown to clear my head. The air felt crisp, the sidewalks busy, and for the first time in ages, I felt grounded, like I was back in my own body. Halfway down the block, another message appeared. From Daniel. "Just checking in. How are you doing today?" Short, kind, steady. I typed back. "Surprisingly okay. One step at a time." He replied, "Good, you deserve peace." I stopped walking for a moment and just let that settle. Not romance, not drama, just a reminder that the world still had decent people in it. I wasn't healed yet. But I wasn't breaking anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity that felt almost suspicious. You know that strange, unfamiliar calm you get after surviving a tornado? That was me, still standing, hair a little tousled, but absolutely functional. I made myself a real breakfast for the first time in weeks. Eggs, toast, fruit, the whole I'm thriving starter pack. It tasted like independence with a hint of spite. By late morning, I had my meeting with the divorce lawyer. Her office was sleek, modern, and smelled faintly of eucalyptus and victory. She shook my hand firmly. "So," she said, settling into her chair, "tell me what happened." I handed her the folder of evidence. She flipped through it slowly, eyebrows rising higher with each page. "Oh," she murmured. "Oh my, well, this is compelling." "I know," I said, sipping the complimentary bottled water like it was champagne. She'd looked up at me. "You're remarkably composed." I shrugged. "I already fell apart." "This is the rebuilding phase." She smiled. "A real one, not the professional kind. Let's get you your life back." We spent an hour going over paperwork, timelines, next steps. It was surprisingly empowering, like updating a resume after leaving a terrible job. When I left her office, I felt taller. Walking back to the hotel, I realized something else. I didn't feel sad. Not even a little. Grieving the marriage had already happened quietly over months of suspicions, half-truths, and emotional distance. Today felt like turning off a light switch. Back in my room, I got another text. Not from him, not from her, from Daniel. "I'm headed out of town for a few days. Just needed space to think. Wishing you strength." I sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, letting the message settle. No expectations, no hint of anything inappropriate. Just kindness. I replied, "Take care of yourself. You deserve clarity too." The afternoon drifted by. I took a walk by the river, let the sun warm my face, and people watched like I wasn't currently navigating the messiest family tree in America. Then, late afternoon, a new number called me. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. A woman's voice said, "Hi, you don't know me, but you need to hear something." I froze because my life apparently wasn't done surprising me. The voice on the phone was unfamiliar, calm, steady, but edged with something sharp enough to make my stomach drop. "Who is this?" I asked, standing up without realizing it. A small pause. "My name is Caroline," she said. "And I think your husband tried to cheat on you with me too." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" She took a shaky breath. "We met at a conference last fall. He told me he was basically separated. I shut it down when he got pushy, but he kept messaging. I found out he was married months later, and today..." She hesitated. "He reached out again. Said he was having a hard time at home and needed someone to talk to." "Oh, of course he did." The man was a walking cliche with a Wi-Fi password. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the comforter. "Why call me?" "Because you deserve to know," she said. "And because I didn't want him spinning some story before someone else warned you." For a moment, I didn't say anything. Not because I was shocked, my shock receptors had been burned out days ago, but because the sheer predictability of it all nearly made me laugh. He wasn't just unfaithful. He was aggressively unoriginal. "Thank you for telling me," I finally said, steady. "You didn't have to." "I'm sorry you're dealing with this," she murmured. "You seem stronger than he deserves." I gave a humorless little breath. "Working on it," we ended the call politely, respectfully. Two women connected only by the world's most disappointing plot twist. I sat there for a moment, phone still in hand, staring at nothing. Not sad, not hurt, just done. Done in a way so final, it settled into my bones like quiet armor. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text from my husband. "Can we talk tonight? It's important." I almost choked. Important? He had no idea what important looked like. I typed back one word. "No." Then I blocked his number. Clean. Surgical. Easy. That night, I ordered room service, garlic fries, and a slice of cheesecake, and ate it in bed while watching a terrible reality show. And ironically, it was the most peaceful night I'd had in years, because something shifted that day. Not just a boundary, not just a perspective, a realization. He wasn't my problem anymore. He wasn't my responsibility. He wasn't even a character worth hating. He was simply done. A chapter closed so tightly it felt like it sealed itself shut. and for the first time, I felt a spark of something warm and unfamiliar: anticipation. Tomorrow, I was stepping into a future that didn't have him or her in it, and I couldn't wait. The next morning, I checked out of the hotel with my bag on my shoulder and a strange, buoyant calm in my chest. I wasn't floating, I was grounding, claiming space, breathing air that finally felt like it belonged to me. The world didn't look different, but I did. I stopped at a cafe on the corner, ordered the kind of fancy latte I used to feel guilty buying, and sat by the window watching people rush to places I no longer had to be. My phone stayed blissfully quiet. No husband begging, no mother pleading, just silence. A luxury I didn't realize I'd missed. While sipping my latte, I realized something that felt like the final click of a lock sliding open. My revenge was never the restaurant confrontation, or the shock, or the exposure. It wasn't even the divorce paperwork. My real revenge was walking away so completely that they could no longer access the version of me they once took for granted. I wasn't the crying wife in the hallway anymore. I wasn't the daughter hoping her mother would choose her. I wasn't the woman waiting for someone else to do right by her. I was my own witness, my own advocate, my own fresh start. Later that afternoon, I met with a realtor and toured a small apartment with big windows and sunlight that spilled across the floors like a promise. It smelled faintly of paint and possibility. "I'll take it," I said, without hesitation. I didn't even need to check the closets. The space felt right. Clean. Uncomplicated. Mine. By evening, I was unpacking my bag in a place that had no ghosts, just future echoes of better days. I set my favorite mug on the counter, lit a candle, and opened the window to let in the evening breeze. My phone buzzed, a single text from Daniel. "Wherever you land next, I hope it brings you peace." I smiled and replied, "It already has." As the sun dipped behind the buildings, I curled up on my new couch, still wrapped in plastic, and felt something warm unfurl in me. Not triumph, not vindication. Something gentler, stronger, closure. The real kind, the kind you build with your own two hands. And in that quiet moment, with the city humming softly outside, I realized the truth I wish I had known years ago. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. Sometimes it's simply walking away and letting the people who underestimated you learn, slowly, painfully, that you were the best thing they ever had, and the one thing they'll never get back.